Hi, in our last video we looked at how we set up the settings for a new Moodle quiz. In this video we're going to actually start putting that quiz together. So I'm on the screen that I'd get when I save my settings for the first time, and I'm going to want to actually edit the quiz now. So I click on that and I get an empty quiz page. I've got a couple of options here. I can set how much I want to grade my quiz out of. I can click Add to start adding questions, and I can add new questions. If I've already been using Moodle quizzing, I can use quizzes that already exist in my question bank. I can even ask for a random one out of my question bank. We'll come back to that at the end. And when I hit Add a new one, I get all the different options for what Moodle can do. We're only going to look at a couple of these in this video. We're going to look at Essay, which is one of the most commonly used ones at Kenyon. And then we're going to look briefly at Short Answer. There's a vocabulary issue there. We'll get to it. Multiple choice questions. We'll throw in matching and description as well, because those can be done pretty quickly. But there are a lot of interesting options for different kinds of quiz questions, and it's worth looking at all of them to see if any of them match what you want to do. So let's switch over now to a pre-baked quiz. This is one that I've already put some work into. You'll notice that I've let my maximum grade and my total marks get out of sync. And Moodle will scale this for you and will make your math right, but it's going to make your life complicated, so I'm going to fix that. But you'll notice each quiz I've defined how many marks each question is worth, with my essay worth a whole lot more than my multiple choice and matching questions. I've got an option in here that I can shuffle the items on. If I want to shuffle the order of questions on the page, I can do that. I'm going to turn that off for the moment. I've got these little buttons to I can add a page break. If I want to add page breaks, I can take it out if I want to take out a page break. I've got my little crosshairs that I can use if I want to drag questions around. I can reorder them with my crosshairs. In this video, I'm going to be using the preview question button a lot so you know what things look like. And then I'm going to be using this gear to edit these questions. Lots of people use Moodle for essays. Let's take a look at that. It's also one of the easiest ones to introduce. It's an essay question. You give them a prompt, you give them a text box to write in. Let's edit it and see what we've got. So the first thing is we've got that name that we see, Shakespeare and Pericles. We've got the text and the question text that they see, and that's your prompt for the essay. You can set a default mark. This is actually a question from my undergraduate comps, so I've given it a lot of points. It's a complicated essay. How is the student allowed to respond? By default, they'll get an HTML editor that they can write in. If you want to switch that out to just a plain text editor, you can do that. You can require the student to enter text or not in order to submit the essay, their quiz successfully. You can control the size of the input box. So if this is really a very short answer, I only want a couple of sentences, maybe I want to only give you 5 lines. The student can actually keep writing as much as they want, but I'm giving them a visual cue. This should be a short answer. As I told you, this question is long. I might give them a lot of space to write in. One thing that people have done with Moodle essay questions is they'll say, pick up the questions in Moodle, go over to Word, write it in Word. And they've been saying, and then cut and paste it back into Moodle. And that'll work. But if we're going to do that, why don't we just say, go over, write it in Word, save your work frequently, and then upload it as an attachment to your file. You can let that be optional or required, and you can control what kind of files they give you. So you can say, only do this if you can give me a PDF or a Word file. A response template will allow you to start filling in the student's essay for them, which might be useful if what you want them to do is follow a particular procedure or format. You can lay that out here. That's a new feature. Grader information is useful if there are other people also grading the essays. I can save and come back and edit it some more, which I want to do so I can preview what that little attachment box looks like. And here's where I could drag my essay in there as a student. So that's an essay question. Now, here's the vocabulary issue. Moodle also has a thing called short answer. And at Kenyon, short answer usually means, short, a couple of sentences, not an essay. In Moodle, a short answer question is really a fill-in-the-blank question. Who's the wrong heir to the throne of Denmark? Fill in your answer here. And I'm looking for a character name. If I edit that question, again, we'll see that I've given it a name that only I can see. I've given it the prompt that the student can see, the default mark, the feedback. If I want to tell the students why I've asked a particular question, I can fill that in. This is a case where I want the case sensitivity to match. You might have cases where it's not important and the letters can be upper or lowercase. And then I have to provide one right answer, and I can add as many potential other answers as possible. I can use a star for a wildcard. So I've decided if you get Hamlet in there, you get 100%. You get full marks for that. I can be more specific if I don't want to use wildcards. I don't want Hamlet, Prince of Sweden to work. So Hamlet, Prince of Denmark is another answer that gets full credit. I told you the case matters, but okay, if you type Hamlet without a capital H, I'll give you 50%. If you misspell Hamlet, maybe I'll give you 25% because I'm a nice guy. There are some options in Moodle quizzing to allow students to retry a question even while a single attempt is going on. We're not going to talk about that right now, but that's what the multiple tries will allow you to do. You can give hints and impose penalties if a student doesn't get it on the first try, but they're able to get to the right answer. That's controlled in the question behavior for the whole quiz, and that's something we can have a talk about. Give me a call if you want to talk about that in more detail. I've got my Save Changes option, and I can save my matching question. A multiple choice question looks like a multiple choice question. The student gets a prompt. The student gets potential answers to save. Here in the preview mode, we can actually see that we've got the correct answer chosen. If we edit a multiple choice question, again, we've got the name that I see. We've got the prompt that the student sees. I can give my marks and my feedback. Now for a multiple choice question, do I want only one answer to be right, or do I want the student to be able to choose multiple options? That can lead to a more productive, formative assessment where the student's really thinking a little more about the potential answers. Do I want to shuffle the choices so I can make sure that everybody doesn't see the same A and the same B answer? Of course, that means that if I choose that, I can't do all of the above, or B and C no longer makes sense. I have to write more specifically than that. I can have letters or numbers. And then in the answers section, I say, okay, here's my choice. This is the correct answer. I can give feedback specific to the correct answer. These two answers are just entirely wrong. They're wrong, they get no points. I can give feedback that points out, well, he hasn't met Olivia yet at this point in the play, so that's clearly wrong. Now, what about choice 4 down here? He wishes to impress the court. That's a wrong answer. That's not correct. But maybe a student's going to argue about how Orsino is trying to perform a particular role for his court, and maybe I'm such a nice guy, I will allow that to be a half credit answer. So I can have a set of correct answers, wrong answers, and partial credit answers, the same way that I did with my fill-in-the-blank question. And again, I can give feedback. I can configure multiple tries if I'm testing in that manner. I finish up and I save my changes, and it'll take me back to my quiz page. And then the last thing I just wanted to demonstrate as one of the things that Moodle can do is that you can make a matching question. And I can say that Benedict goes with Beatrice and Juliet goes with Romeo, etc., etc. I can fill in the correct responses to make sure that I've done it correctly. Close my little preview here. And again, the configuration of a matching question is pretty simple. A question name that I see, question text that the student sees, my feedback and points. I probably want to shuffle my options every time so that the questions aren't in the same order for everybody. And again, I'm just writing pairs of correct answers together so that the students can pick them. And then down at the bottom, I've added a couple of confounding answers that don't match with anybody. Those are just extra things that they should know don't match. So that's just another kind of question that's available in the Moodle quiz module. I've got one more thing on this quiz I want to show you, which is just a description. A description isn't actually a question, it's just the next questions refer to this image. It's an instruction that you might have to give some context, maybe to make a page of a question, make a page of an exam make sense. And it can be a place where you do something like this. You might say, the next questions refer to this image. The image might be a map or a chart or any kind of other graphic. Of course, it might just be a table of data or a quote that you're giving the students to work with. It's just to prove that everything doesn't actually have to be a question, although it largely looks and functions the same. It's got a meaningful question name. It's got a question text where, in fact, I've used the HTML editor in this case to add the picture. And this is also by way of pointing out you've got all of these available. For every question type we've looked at, you can put those in. And you've got, at this point, no answer. It's not a question, so there's no space for an answer. I also said we'd look quickly at the random question type, which relies on you having set up categories in your question bank. The question bank is where your quizzes live. And in this case, I've got 2 categories in my Moodle quizzing Moodle course. One has 26 questions and one has 8 questions. And I could say, okay, give me a random one from the 26. This might be a case of, I just want to give the students 1 or 2 questions on the final that were also on the midterm, just so that they remember them. Or if you've done more meaningful categories, you might be able to say, well, here are different units of the course or different things that I'm testing for. This is the anatomy section. Give me a couple of anatomy questions, for example. And I can choose how many random questions I want. It shows me some example of what the questions are that fit. And I can just hit add random question. And then it points out with the little die that it's just random out of a particular category. And each student will get a different random question. This is all by way of telling you that to keep your exam writing sustainable, it's worth spending some time with that question bank where you can see all the different questions that I have put in the past. And in the categories section, I could maybe tidy that up a little bit more and come up with meaningful categories where it would be easier for me to find these and reuse them. Because we hope you're going to find a useful tool in this quiz module that will help you deliver both formative and summative assessments and be better for your work and the students' learning. So it'll be worth some time to spend some time with categories so that you know what you've got and how you can reuse it in future courses. Thanks.